A very good evening, everybody. Welcome back to Sense of Science. We are continuing our journeys of one-shot videos for CBSE JEE NEET. Today we are taking up a class 11th chapter, very important, thermodynamics in the shortest possible time. Okay, so let's begin. Thermodynamics actually is a branch of physics and chemistry which is dealing with the study of everything related to heat. Okay. Now in a thermodynamics, before moving on to the processes, we need to understand the basic terms first. If you can see this beaker here, there is a solution in the beaker which we are studying, and the rest of it is filled with air which we are not studying. Okay, so the part of the universe, part of the world which we are investigating inside the test tube is called the system, which is under study, and the rest of the part which we are not studying is called the surrounding, and there is a particular boundary or a phase boundary which distinguishes the system and the surrounding. You can see in the cursor. Okay, now this system can be of three types. It can be open, closed, or isolated. An open system means both mass and energy can be transferred. So just take an example of I am having tea in a spoon. That's an open system. Closed system means the heat, energy, or any kind of energy will be transferred, but there will be no transfer of mass. So for example, I am having a tea in a teapot. Okay, I am not transferring tea anywhere, no tea is vaporizing, but some amount of heat is gradually getting lost and the tea will become cold after a particular interval of time. The last one is isolated system, okay, in which none of mass and energy are transferred. Okay, that means if I put tea in a thermos, the tea will remain as hot as it was and there will be no tea vaporizing as well. So it is an isolated system. Okay. Now when we investigate the system and carry out certain processes on the system, we get our desired results or reactions. Now talking about these processes, the processes are of three major types which we are studying, four major types in fact, which are isothermal, isobaric, isochoric and adiabatic. Iso means constant. Now thermal is temperature, that means constant temperature. Isobaric, bar is the unit of pressure, so that means constant pressure. Isochoric is for constant volume, and adiabatic is very important in the process in which there will be no heat transfer. That means heat will not be transferred at all. So just this keeping the tea in the thermos was an example of adiabatic process. If heat has to be transferred, we need our walls to be conducting, the walls of the system. So if we have non-conducting walls called adiabatic walls, heat won't be transferred. So now bring your attention to this side of the video. We will now be having some sign conventions before moving on to the law of thermodynamics. The sign conventions are, if work is done on the system, we do work on the system, it is measured as positive. If work is done by the system does some work, it is negative. If we have heat absorbed by the system, heat absorbed means that is an endothermic process, that means it will be taken as positive, and in a reaction or a system, if heat is evolved, that means heat is lost, it is exothermic, it will be negative. Okay, you have to remember these very much. Now moving on to the laws of thermodynamics, the first law of thermodynamics is the law of conservation of energy, which just says that energy can neither be created nor be destroyed, it is conserved. Chemically in thermodynamics, we can write the law of conservation of energy as delta U is delta Q plus P delta V. Delta U is actually the internal energy of a system, which is actually the total energy a system possesses. We can also define internal energy as the energy under constant volume. When volume of a system is constant, it's an isobaric condition, the energy is called internal energy. Internal energy is measured in joules because it is a form of energy, and the formula is delta Q U is equal to delta Q plus delta W. Delta W is the work done, and work done can also be written as pressure into volume by a simple formatic derivation. Okay. Now this is a one-shot video of quick concept recap, so we won't be going into derivations as such, but you can go through it in the NCERT. From delta U there originates another formula, that delta U plus delta NGRT is equal to delta H. Okay. Now this means actually delta U, okay, plus delta NGRT, R is the gas constant, U is the internal energy, T is the temperature in Kelvin, becomes delta H, which is the enthalpy of a reaction. Now what is enthalpy? Enthalpy is another parameter or a state variable in which we measure a reaction, the heat of a reaction, but this is under constant pressure, as I have written here. Now why not constant volume? Because generally in laboratories we cannot maintain a constant volume, but we can maintain the constant atmospheric pressure, so we have the concept of enthalpy. Now what is delta Ng? Delta Ng means if there is a reaction, in that reaction you subtract the moles of the product, gaseous product, minus moles of gaseous reactant. What is to be noted here, that only take up the gaseous reactants, not aqueous, not liquid, not solid. Okay. Enthalpies are of many other types as well, but I have taken up the most important ones. The first is delta HR, that is enthalpy of a reaction. Okay, means the heat evolved or absorbed in a reaction. In exothermic reaction it is going to be negative, and endothermic it is positive, and the formula is heat of products minus heat of reactant, simply. Then comes out lattice enthalpy. Lattice, you already know, in ionic bond the ions are arranged in a three-dimensional structure called lattice. So whenever the ion breaks, okay, the ion breaks to the cation and the anion, just like NaCl, the salt breaks into sodium plus and chlorine minus, the enthalpy of the reaction is called lattice enthalpy, which is formed by an enthalpy diagram called Born-Haber cycle. Okay, then you have delta HF, enthalpy of formation. Enthalpy of formation means whenever we are forming something, the enthalpy of that is enthalpy of formation. There are 2 points important to be noted here. Number one, that the product which has to be formed for enthalpy of formation has to be only 1 mole. And number two is that only the basic reactants has to be used. So for example, if I have a product named CO2, I will only use C and O in the equation to get 1 mole of CO2, and I can find out the enthalpy of formation. CO2 can also be formed from other sources, but we won't use that. We'll just use the basic elements which are there. One more point which I have not written here is that enthalpy of formation of any element, single element, is always 0. Okay, so you may note it down as well. Then comes enthalpy of combustion. Enthalpy of combustion simply means the enthalpy required to burn a substance, 1 mole of a substance, completely to release the gaseous products, heat and light. Now as enthalpy of combustion reactions mein heat is evolved. That means it's an exothermic reaction, so enthalpy of combustion is always negative. I have written it here. You can see it here. I'll just use the cursor. Okay. Then comes to enthalpy of solution. Now a solution means solute plus solvent. But first of all, a solute generally is an ion, and the ion is always, the salt ion is always in the lattice. So we have to break the lattice to release the ions and then dissolve it in the water. So that's why enthalpy of solution has lattice enthalpy, which is the enthalpy of breaking the salt to release the ion, plus the enthalpy of hydration. What is enthalpy of hydration? The enthalpy required to dissolve the solute in the solvent. Because first you have to break the solute from the ion and then dissolve it. So both these combining give us the enthalpy of solution. Okay. Then coming to bond enthalpy. Enthalpy of bond is the enthalpy required to break a bond, 1 mole of a bond. Okay. Now from here there is one more thing you should know. If there are many bonds in a reaction, for example I have a reactant named CH4, it has 4 CH bonds, then what is the bond enthalpy of the reaction to break CH4 into C plus 4H? We have to find out enthalpy individually of each bond and then take the mean. That means CH bond 1, CH bond 2, CH bond 3, CH bond 4 divided by 4. That is the mean of the reaction, and that term is called as the mean bond enthalpy. Okay. Another important formula, if bond enthalpies are given and you have to find the enthalpy of a reaction, this is the only formula in which you will subtract products from reactant. Enthalpy of reactant minus product, not product minus reactant. In all other enthalpies it is always product minus reactant. So this is an exceptional formula here. Okay. Now state change. Whenever there is change of state, we have change in heat. Okay, heat can be evolved, absorbed. So there are 3 as per your syllabus. Number 1 is fusion. Fusion is solid to liquid. So the enthalpy required for 1 mole of solid to change to the corresponding liquid is fusion. Then vaporization, that is the enthalpy required to change the liquid into gas, 1 mole. 1 mole is very important. Okay. And sublimation is gas to solid or solid to gas. So enthalpy which will be required to carry out that is the enthalpy of sublimation. Okay. All of these have involving what? They are involving absorption of heat. They need heat to break the bond, so they all will be positive values because it is heat absorbed. It's an endothermic reaction here. Okay. All right. So let's move forward now. Now coming on to the second law of thermodynamics. The second law of thermodynamics states that entropy measures spontaneity. So before moving on to that, we should know what is entropy. Entropy is denoted by delta S, and it measures the randomness or disorder in a particular state. So for example, if I have gases, the gas molecules are always like this in random motion. Okay, they are not attracted strongly by intermolecular force. That means their entropy is very high. Whereas if you talk about solid, the molecules are tightly bonded and they are not random and disordered. So there is a perfect order. So solids have less entropy. That's why you can see the entropy order I have written here. Excuse me. First you have crystalline solids with the lowest enthalpy. Crystalline solids are the solids with perfect order. Then you have amorphous solids which have less perfect order. Then liquids, and then gases which are maximum disorder. That means the entropy is maximum. Okay, so this is an important result. Alright. Now what is spontaneity? Spontaneity means how a reaction can self carry itself. That means एक reaction खुद से कैसे आगे बढ़ता रहेगा. That is your spontaneity. Okay, and if there is more disorder, that means the reaction will proceed forward and spontaneity is there. Now, from the case of crystalline solids, we get the third law of thermodynamics. This states that crystalline solids as such have very less entropy because they are tightly bound like this. So because of that, when the temperature approaches absolute zero, you must be knowing absolute zero is the temperature of minus 273.15 Kelvin where no gases exist. Okay, at this temperature, when the temperature is very less, the entropy will absolutely approach to zero and it will be a perfect order crystalline solid. Okay, there is one more formula of entropy we should remember. Now entropy increases with heat and temperature. If you heat a system, if I have order here and if I put heat here, slowly the bonds will try to break and the order will be shattered and solid will be transforming slowly to the liquid and gas, and that means entropy will increase with heat and temperature. From there comes this formula that delta S is heat upon temperature. Total delta S of a universe will be delta S of system and surrounding. Okay, because system and surrounding make a universe. So adding the entropy of both will give me the total entropy. Okay, now come here to this part of the board. You can see about reaction spontaneity. For reaction spontaneity, enthalpy and entropy both are playing an important role, and that's why we are combining both of them to form a new function called Gibbs free energy, denoted by delta G, which is the formula is delta H minus T delta S, where delta H is enthalpy, delta S is entropy, and T is the temperature in Kelvin. Always take the temperature in Kelvin. Okay, now this delta G, if it is positive, then the reaction is non-spontaneous. It won't happen on itself. How can delta G be positive? Delta G can be positive when delta H is positive and when delta H is negative. So the negative sign here would cancel out and this is positive, then only it can be positive. Simple mathematics. When can delta G be negative? Delta G can be negative. First of all, you have to make delta H negative. That means it has to be an exothermic reaction. Okay, and delta S, if it is positive, then this whole term will continue to be negative, and that's why delta G will be negative. Simple mathematics sign conventions. Okay. Now, when we take the condition of standard temperature and pressure, this delta G changes to delta G naught. Not always denotes standard, so this is standard Gibbs free energy, and the formula for this is delta G naught is equal to minus ln RT log K equilibrium, where K equilibrium is the equilibrium constant of a reaction. That means at which state has the equilibrium achieved. Okay, that means the rate of reaction becomes constant. That is equilibrium. We will understand it more, this equation, in the next chapter, so we'll just brief it up here. Now changing ln to log, you should know we have to multiply by 2.303 to change ln to log, and then delta G naught becomes minus 2.303 RT log K equilibrium, and from here both delta G naught and K equilibrium can be found out. One important thing, we will relate these two formulas again for spontaneity. In case the reaction is endothermic, if reaction is endothermic, then delta H is what? If reaction is endothermic, delta H is positive, and what is the value of delta G? Then delta G is also positive. And in that case, if delta G is positive, the K equilibrium would be a very small value because it is in opposite to delta G. So the K equilibrium will be a very small value, and because of that the product will be formed less in endothermic reactions. Okay. Second point, when there is an exothermic reaction going on, in the exothermic reaction delta H is negative. You can know from here. That means what is delta G also? Delta G also becomes negative. As delta G is negative, that means as delta G is smaller, K will be very large. So K will be a big value. And if the equilibrium constant has been established large, that means that more product is formed. That you will understand it better in equilibrium chapter. Why more product is formed? Because equilibrium constant determines the concentrations of product by reactant. And if it's bigger than 1, that means product is more than reactant. That is the case. And that means a reaction would approach completion towards an exothermic process. So in order, in the end, we conclude that this reaction is more favored to form a spontaneous reaction and a favored reaction if it is exothermic. So we can modify the second law of thermodynamics by saying that exothermic reactions have higher entropy and they are entropy, and they are proceeding towards more spontaneity than endothermic reactions. Okay. One final formula. Temperature is always proportional to heat. More temperature means more heat. This is known. So that means to remove the proportionality, we have to use a constant, and this constant, that Q is equal to C delta T or Ct. This C is called heat capacity. That is the heat required to raise the temperature by 1 Kelvin or 1 Celsius. That is the heat. Temperature को एक बढ़ाने के लिए जो heat चाहिए, that is heat capacity. If you want to find heat capacity in terms of moles, just divide it by molarity and you will get molar heat capacity. And finally, there is one last formula, again derivation you can go through from the NCERT. This is a quick video of recap, so we'll just do the formula. This formula is used in physics as well, called the Mayer's formula. This formula states that Cp minus Cv is R. What is Cp? Heat capacity under constant pressure. What is Cv? Heat capacity under constant volume. And what is R? Universal gas constant. So Cp minus Cv is equal to R from heat capacity. This is a simple thing you should be knowing. With that, we close off a one-shot quickest revision for thermodynamics before going on to the storming questions you would be practicing. So you need a concept refresher. So just watch it quickly, refresh your concepts, note down important points if you want, and refresh it very well. Thank you. We'll be coming up with more one-shot videos soon. Under the playlist of one shot, you can see them, and please subscribe to the channel as well. Thank you.